Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihil kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. We were talking about the four things that are required in order for us to properly understand and use an ism within a sentence. Those four things were adad, wus'at, jins and i'rab. So we studied three of them. We looked into each of them in detail, and we were in our last class we are talking about wus'at. In wus'at we saw that there are two categories, ma'rifa and nakira. Ma'rifa is something which is definite, specific, and nakira is something which is general. And we said that nakira is broad in scope, ma'rifa is like limited to something specific. And in order to understand ma'rifa and nakira, we use the same concept as we used in jins, which is we study the rules for a specific for one of them, and we check the ism for those rules. Like in jins we dealt with the rules of muannath, right? We studied the rules, whether it is haqiqi or ghair haqiqi. In ghair haqiqi, whether it is alamati or simai, and if an ism does not fall in any of those rules, then it will be a muzakkar, right? Similarly, we started with studying the rules for ma'rifa, because ma'rifa is specific, right? So if we know the rules for ma'rifa, whenever we have an ism, we will run it through all those rules and see if it fits into any of the categories. If it doesn't fit, then it means that it is a nakira, right? So we said that there are 7 categories of ma'rifa, 7 in total. For now we will study 5 and study 2 later on as we proceed. So out of those 5, 4 of them are pretty simple and straightforward. Ismul alam, or proper nouns. Proper noun is something which is the name of a person or name of a place. Whatever has a name, it's specific, it is ismul alam. Then we studied asmaul ishara, or demonstrative pronouns, those nouns that are used to describe something which is either near or far. Haza, hazihi, zalika, tilka, haulai. Like in English we have this, that, these, those, right? Then we studied asmaul mausula, or relative pronouns, like whose and whom. So these are used in English to relate something, and it is used a lot in the Arabic language, right? So ismul alam, asmaul ishara, asmaul mausula, and damair, right? Pronouns like huwa, hiya, hum. We will study damair in detail later on, but for now. So these 4 are pretty straightforward. Whenever you see that, okay, this ism is zamir, or it is an ism from ismul ishara, right? So you can say that this is ma'rifa without like going into too much complications. The 5th one, which was mu'arraf bil lam, we will study some rules more about mu'arraf bil lam in today's class. Mu'arraf bil lam, or what was the meaning for that? It is that ism which has been converted from nakira to ma'rifa using alif and lam, right? Yeah, from nakira to ma'rifa, something which is specific to something something which is general to something which is specific. Like in English we use the word the, right? We use the word the. So if you are talking about like a story or something, you start with a and then you use the. So you are converting something which is general it could be anything, into something which is specific. So alif lam is kind of the equivalent of the in the English language, right? So let's take a word kitabun, right? We have a word kitabun, and this is a wahid ism, it is nakira, right? And the translation for this would be, if you were to translate it, it will be book. But now, since you know that it is a nakira ism, it would be a book or any book, right? A book or any book. But if we were to add alif lam and make it so what would it be? Al kitabu, right? Because tanween and alif lam are enemies, enemies, right? Al kitab. So we'll study more about this alif lam. Okay, this alif lam. The first concept for today, this alif lam, okay, is something which is added as an extra thing, right? It was not part of the original ism itself, right? Also, since we are adding alif lam, so first of all, in this al kitab, right, first of all, just tell me whether this is like an alif or hamza. From, remember the something we studied in the first class, the difference between alif and hamza. This, in this specific case, is it alif or is it hamza? What's the difference between alif and hamza? The difference is, if you have alif without any sign on it, then it is alif. If there is any either haraka, either fatha, dhamma, kasra, then we call it as hamza, right? Then we call it as hamza. So this alif lam is actually hamza. It is a hamza, right? It is a hamza, and it is called as hamzatul wasl in Arabic. Hamzatul wasl. It is called as hamzatul wasl. Hamzatul wasl, right? So this is added to support lam. I'll tell you what the actual case is. The actual case is that if you take the word, we said that it is mu'arraf bil lam, right? Mu'arraf bil lam means a nakira ism has been converted into a marifa ism with the help of a lam, with the help of a lam. So in reality, only lam is being used to convert the nakira ism into a marifa, right? This hamza is just for a support. I will tell you what does that mean. So let's say we did not have the hamza, right? Let's say we did not have the hamza. So I want you to read this word now. Read this ism. So this is something which goes against the language, right? Because language means something which is spoken fluently, right? So we cannot pronounce this properly, no matter how much you try, without something from behind. Without something from behind. This lam actually has a name. This lam actually has a name. In fact, there are different types of lam in the Arabic language, right? So this lam that we are studying, this is the second lam that we are studying. What was the first lam that we studied? The first lam was the lam we studied in huruful hija, the letter lam, the letter, the harf lam we studied in huruful hija, that was the first lam. This lam is the second lam and it has a name. Okay, it has a name, and that is this lam is called lamut ta'rif. Lamut ta'rif. Okay, it is called lamut ta'rif, the meaning of which is ta'rif is from ma'rifa, the lam that is used to convert a nakira into a ma'rifa. So this lam is called lamut ta'rif. There will be many other lams that we will study later on. So I would request you to write this as the second lam until now in the course, and it is called lamut ta'rif. Lamut ta'rif. So what is lamut ta'rif? Which lam is this? Lam used to convert a nakira ism into a ma'rifa ism. It's called lamut ta'rif. So in mu'arraf bil lam, when we said in previous class that mu'arraf bil lam is converting a nakira into a ma'rifa by adding a lam, right? It does not say mu'arraf bil alif wal lam, it is just mu'arraf bil lam. So the lam is the actual entity that's making the conversion, but since we cannot pronounce it, it becomes very difficult or impossible to pronounce this without having something from without anything preceding it. That is why we add this hamza. We add this hamza. So when we add this hamzatul wasl like this, and the hamzatul wasl always has a fatha on it. There will be different hamzas that will come later on, just like lams, but this hamza has a fatha on it, right? This hamza has a fatha on it. So now you can pronounce this as al-kitab. Now you can pronounce this as al-kitab, right? Is this something that you guys understood?
Yes.
Okay.
The hamzatul wasl would be the hamza only with fatha.
Yeah, yeah, and it is added in support of the lamut ta'rif. It is like it does not have its own presence, right? It is only used in support, right? You can relate this in the English language. Like for example, let me write these words down in English. These letters what are these letters called in the English? Silent letters, right? These are called as silent letters, which means that they are written but not pronounced, right? The reason why I am saying that it is written but not pronounced is, let me give you an example. So we have the word al-kitabu, right? In Suratul Baqarah, when the surah starts, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alif Lam Mim, then Zalikal Kitabu La Raiba Fi. If you go and look into the Quran how it is written, it would be over here the interesting thing is this hamza now becomes an alif. What is the difference between alif and hamza? Haraka, right? Because we said that this hamza does not have its actual presence, it is just there to support it, right? Now when we have something that precedes it, Dhalikal kitab. So now there is no need for this Hamza, right? There is no need for this Hamza. So this Hamza is just written as an alif, but it is not read or not pronounced. So it becomes Dhalikal kitabu. It is not Dhalika al kitabu. We don't say it like this. We say it Dhalikal kitab. Unless you stop here. When you stop here, then you have to put a al. So in some places in the Quran, you would see that there would be some alifs that are written, but they are not pronounced, they are not read. But if you were to stop at that point and start it from there, then you would have to read that alif. You would have to put some haraka on it and then continue it from there. This is how the Arabic language is. So the Hamza, it's called Hamzatul Wasl, and if the ism in which Hamzatul Wasl exists, if any ism precedes it, okay, in that case what happens is it becomes an alif, which means that it is just written and not read. Unless you are stopping at this point, let's say there is an ayah over here, okay, and you stop it, and then when you want to continue it from here, then you read that alif and then it becomes a Hamza. So that's why you can see and understand like what's the subtle difference between alif and Hamza, and why the experts of the language had a difference of opinion of whether alif and Hamza is the same letter or not, right? Any questions until now?
Just one. The Hamzatul Wasl, does it always have a fatha on it? Can it also have a kasra on it?
No. So the Hamzatul Wasl will have a fatha on it, but there would be some different Hamzas that we'll study later on. Those can have either a fatha or a kasra or a dhamma, but the Hamzatul Wasl always has a fatha, right? So I guess when you are asking this question, there may be some different alifs that are coming to your mind, alifs or Hamzas depending on how you say it. So like for example, Alladhina, right? Alladhina. So Alladhina is a word, is an ism al mawsul, but the alif of Alladhina, it is not a Hamzatul Wasl, right? It is a part of the ism itself. So how do you identify Hamzatul Wasl is try to read it without removing alif lam, okay? Like try to ask this question, is this alif, is it part of the ism itself or is it something added as an extra thing? Then only you will be able to understand that whether it is Hamzatul Wasl or not. We saw this in the last class that the lam, the extra lam that is added to the nakira ism in order to make it ma'rifa, we know the name for it now. It is called Lamut Ta'rif. This Lamut Ta'rif is pronounced sometimes and is not pronounced sometimes, right? As we saw in the last class that the word sayyaratun, when you make it as ma'rifa, right, when you convert it into ma'rifa, you say as-sayyaratun, right? As-sayyaratu, I'm sorry, as-sayyaratu, as-sayyaratu. We don't say al-sayyaratu, we don't say al-sayyaratu. And the word ghurfatun, for example, which means a room, if you were to add an alif lam to make it ma'rifa, you would say al-ghurfatu. So there are some letters in which the lam is pronounced and some letters in which the lam is not pronounced, right, or not read. So how do we know that? Like how do we know that what are those letters? So the experts of the language, they categorized into two categories. All the letters, the huruful hija, right? How many letters are there? 28. 28. Okay, 28 letters. 26 is in English, right? So out of those 28 letters, interestingly, 14 are huruf al-qamariya and 14 are huruf al-shamsiya. Huruf al-shamsiya, not al-shamsiya. Exactly half, right? So 14 are huruf al-shamsiya, okay, and 14 are huruf al-qamariya. In English, they are called sun letters and moon letters. Huruf al-shamsiya and huruf al-qamariya, sun letters and moon letters. Out of the 28 letters, 14 are huruf al-shamsiya and 14 are huruf al-qamariya. Why are they called huruf al-shamsiya and huruf al-qamariya? The reason being is from these two words, ash-shams and al-qamar, right? So in ash-shams, the lam is not pronounced, the lam is not pronounced or read, it is directly ash-shams, this way, right? And in al-qamar, the lam is pronounced, right? The lam is pronounced. Now an interesting thing over here is, whenever you read the Quran, in order for you to read the Quran, this concept is not necessary. Why? Because the Quran will have harakat, right? So when you see the haraka, there is a shadda on the sheen, so you automatically don't read the lam because there is nothing on the lam, right? So for reciting the Quran, this is not that important. But as a student of the Arabic language, one should know that what are those letters, what are those letters that are huruf, that are sun letters and that are moon letters, right? So the letters that we are talking about are the letters that come after the lamut ta'rif, right? These letters, seen, sheen, qaf, right, ghain, we are talking about these letters that follow the lam ut ta'rif. So if they are from those letters, that fall under huruf ash-shamsiya, then automatically we don't read the lam or we don't pronounce the lam, right? So when you know these letters, you don't have to rely on the harakat, because you know directly that okay, these are from those letters, and you don't even need to like remember it. With lots of practice, it will automatically come in your mind, like you can just take a look and recognize, right? And same for huruf al-qamariya or the moon letters, that you will read or pronounce the lam. Now the big question, what are those letters and how do we remember them, right? So there are 28 letters, half of them are sun letters, half are moon letters. How do we remember them? It is so difficult to remember each and every letter, right? So interestingly, we have a mnemonic, right? We have the mnemonic in Urdu and as well in Arabic, right? So I will write both of them down. So for us Urdu speaking, we can just remember that single sentence, okay? It's a sentence in Urdu and all those letters in the sentence are huruf al-qamariya. Let me write the sentence down. Do you know what the mnemonic means in the language? Like, what the experts have done is they have made a sentence in which all letters of this sentence are there is no repetition, all letters come just once, right? So you can read the letters like ha, qaf, kaf, alif, kha, waw, fa, ain, jim, ba, ghain, mim, ha and ya. All of them are, there is no repetition, they are just once, and this is the Arabic version. All of them, if you count, there are 14, each of them 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14, right? So all these 14 letters, remember 14 letters are moon letters, 14 are sen, all these 14 letters in Urdu and in Arabic are moon letters or huruful qamariya, right? Huruful qamariya or moon letters. What does that mean? That means that each and every letter over here, each and every letter, whenever it comes after lam ta'rif, we read or pronounce that letter, right? We read and pronounce that letter. For Urdu speaking people, it will be easy to remember this sentence. Now we are not going to get into what does it mean. Yeah. We'll only remember the sentence and remember that all the letters in the sentence are huruf al qamariya or moon letters, and this is the Arabic version. In Urdu, haq ka khauf ajab gham hai. In Arabic, ibghi hajjaka wa khafa aqimahu. Ibghi hajjaka wa khafa aqimahu. All of them 14 letters in Urdu, 14 letters in Arabic. All of them are moon letters. Apart from these letters, whatever there is in whatever letters are there apart from these will be automatically huruful shamsiya or sun letters. In these sentences, what you can do is take each letter and try to add alif lam before that and then see how it works. So we'll go over this sentence. Let's say ha, for example. We can take the same word haq, al-haq, or in the Quran al-haqqa. So we read or pronounce the letter lam, right? Because it is among the moon letters. Ha, qaf, qaf, al-qamar, right? So lam is pronounced. Kaf, al-kitab, lam is pronounced. Hamza or alif, al-a'raf, yes, al-a'raf. So we have the alif, al-a'raf. Khawf, we can take the same word al-khawf. Waw, al-walad, right? Fa, al-fil, right? Al-fasikh, al-fasikh. Ain, al-ilm, al-ilm. Jim, al-jannah. Ba, al-bab. Ghain, al-ghani, right? Mim, al-ma'un. Ha, al-haya, yeah. And ya, al-yatim, al-yatim, right? So all of these letters, lam is pronounced, and the letters that are not mentioned over here, those 14 letters, lam is not pronounced. Sun letters or huruf al-shamsiya. So for the Urdu version, you can remember this sentence, and for the Arabic version, this is a bit difficult, but for someone, maybe if they listen to this recording in the future, and if they are not Urdu speaking, they can remember this sentence. Ibghi hajjaka wa khafa aqimahu. Ibghi hajjaka wa khafa aqimahu. Names of Allah, you know that Allah has many names, right? So you can understand this concept by pondering over the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like Ar-Rahman, right? So Ra, since Ra is not here, it is the Huruf al-Shamsiyah, right? Ar-Rahman, Ra. As-Samad, Sad is not here, As-Samad. As-Sami', right? Seen is not here, As-Sami'. At-Tawwab, Ta is not here, right? What are some of those which start with Huruf al-Qamariyah? Al-Basir, right? Ba, Al-Basir. Al-Hakim, right? Ha, Al-Hakim. So you can ponder on names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to understand this better. The last concept for today is regarding the Alif Lam or Al, is what change does it make in the meaning? What change does it make in the meaning of the sentence which have an Alif Lam, like the ism when it has an Alif Lam and when it does not have the Alif Lam? We look into some of the examples, right, from the Quran. Suratul Fatiha. Suratul Fatiha. Suratul Fatiha. How does Suratul Fatiha start? Alhamdu lillahi, right? Alhamdu lillahi. Alhamd. What does it mean by this al over here, right? What is it translated usually? All praises. All praises. That's why. Okay. Before this, let's take an example in English, right? Let's take an example is in English. The cow is a useful animal. In this case, when we use the word the, does it refer to a specific cow, or does it talk about all the cows in general? All the cows, right? We say the cow is a useful animal. It means that this the over here is referring to all the cows, right? It is referring to all the cows. Basically, all things of the same type, all things of the same type are referred over here, right? So we have animals, right? And the cow is an animal. When we start the sentence with this the, it means all the cows are useful. That's why we use the cow, right? So this is one of the, as I said, there are broadly or roughly three types of al, like I mean the meaning of al when it comes to understanding al. So over here when we say the cow is a useful animal, it means all the cows. So the same way, when you say Alhamdulillah, it means all praises belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can say this as the first type. The second type is, as we looked into it in the previous class, which is the application of al. It is used to refer to a thing which was referred earlier, right? In the previous class we said that if we are talking about a boy who lives in Texas, or a boy who lives in Plano, Texas, and then in that sentence when we use the same boy again, if we want to use the same boy again in the second or third, we don't use a again, right? We use the. So the second application, this was the first application. The first application is all the things of the same type, right? And the example is Alhamdulillah, right? Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, all praises belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second example is in the story, when we use for the first time, we refer it with a, and then we use it again, the same thing, the same noun, we use it with the, right? Let's look at that example in the Quran. Okay, I want to give one more example of the first type, then we look at on the second one, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Suratul Asr, wal Asr innal insana lafi khusr, right? The al over here, this al, does it refer to any specific insan, or does it refer to all of humanity? All of humanity or all of mankind, right? So when you look at the translation, it says either mankind is in loss or humanity is in loss, something along those lines. So it means the alif lam over here is from the first application that we saw, which means all things of the same type, right? So innal insana lafi khusrin, also the alif over here, right? Because we have inna before it, we don't read inna al insan, right? The alif is written but not read, and now you know the reason why. Innal insana, because of something which precedes the alif, right? In Suratul Muzammil, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says arsalna ila, this is a part of the ayah, arsalna ila fir'auna rasulan, ila fir'auna rasulan. When you stop here, you say ila fir'auna rasula, right? So rasulan, is this rasulan ma'rifa or nakira? It is nakira. It is nakira because there is no alif lam, right? Okay, so the translation of that would be sent, we sent ila fir'auna, which means towards Fir'aun, messenger. So now this, since this is nakira, this would be a messenger, right? A messenger. Allah says we sent towards Fir'aun a messenger, right? Now this messenger is used again in the next ayah. فَعَصَى فِرْعَوْنُ الرَّسُولَ. فَعَصَى فِرْعَوْنُ. فَعَصَى is a fi'l, right? It means he disobeyed, turned away. Fir'aun disobeyed the messenger, ar-Rasul, right? Ar-Rasul. So now this ar-Rasul, which is it pointing to? The Rasul which was mentioned previously, right? And we know that this is who is this Rasul? Musa alayhi salam, right? But in this ayah of the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this, it comes in a nakira form, right? And when it is used again, it is used in the ma'rifa form. So this ma'rifa is nothing but pointing to this Rasul, right? And Fir'aun, the ism Fir'aun, Fir'auna, Fir'aunu, right? So Fir'aun is a ghair munsarif ism, if you remember, Fir'auna. So Fir'aunu, Fir'auna, Fir'auna, right? So Fir'auna over here, we cannot say it is nasb or jar, it is either nasb or jar, but over here it is rafa, right? Over here it is rafa. Just as an extra benefit, if you remember from the example of Nasara, Zaidun, Hammadan, if you remember that, in this in this sentence, fa'asa is the verb or the fi'l, right? Disobeyed. Disobeyed. Who disobeyed? Firaunu, because Firaunu is rafa, right? So we said that fa'il is marfu, right? Marfu means it is in rafa, fa'il. So this is the fa'il. Firaun disobeyed who? Rasul, and it is in nasf, right? So fa'asa Firaunu rasula. So this is how the
so the one who is doing the fail
is Firaun. Yeah, marfu.
And the one who is being receiving the action
Yeah.
is in nasb.
Yeah. It's in nasb over here.
Okay.
So this is something which we'll study in fail, but as I said, an extra or added benefit. So now when you read this ayah, you won't mess up with Firauna or Rasulan, because now you know, right? So let's say if you memorize this ayah and you forgot if it is fatha or kasra, but now you can, and from the meaning you can know, okay, fa'asa Firaunu rasula fa'akhadnahu akhdan wabila. This is the complete ayah.
So this is the second type of alif?
Yes. The third type is something which is known or something which is near to you. Like for example, if you say in English, I am going to the mosque. If you say this to your mom, for example, I am going to the mosque. Now this the over here, right? Does your mom have to ask you which mosque is it, or does she already know? Or your dad already knows that, okay, this is the same mosque, like you and your parents like know that this is the mosque that I go usually, right? So we don't have to mention it. I mean, in this case it would be the specific mosque, but it is agreed upon from before that which mosque is this. So like the listener does not need to ask, right? So this is the third type. An example, like translating this into Arabic, it would be Zahabtu ilal masjidi, right? Zahabtu ilal masjidi. So this al over here is doing the same job as the over here, right? So this al is the same as the, and what does it mean? By which masjid is this? Which mosque is this? It's implied that both of you, like the speaker and the listener, know from before that this is the same that I go always, right? So we don't need to like specify or take the name of that mosque. So this is the third type of alif lam or third application, right? Now all these alif lams have technical meanings in Arabic, like the three that we studied, but we don't need to go at like we don't need to know their names for now. It is something which we can study later on, like as advanced concepts, but I want you to remember the application, right? So what are the three types of alif lams or the application that we studied? Can you?
Alif lam, three categories.
yeah, I mean when it comes to the application or the meaning, what was the first one?
Alhamdulillah.
Like all things of the same type, right? Al
Things of the same type.
right, like Alhamdulillah,
Yeah.
right? Like Al Insan, Innal Insan, right? And what was the second one?
Converting basically the previous nakira.
Repeating the same thing, like in the story or in the sentence, you are mentioning something that was previously mentioned and using alif lam as marifa to point to that, right? That was the second one. And what was the third one?
Implied
Yeah, implied meaning. So these are the three meanings when it comes to the meaning or the application. As I said, we don't need to remember the names for now. The four things, I mean, we studied 5 categories of marifa until now, right? The first 4 of them, ismul alam, zamir, ismul alam, zamir or damair, plural of zamir, asmaul ishara, asmaul mausula, and mu'arraf bil lam, right? Those asma which are marifa by default, right? For example, name of someone or name of something. The general rule is that you don't add an alif lam to that, right? For example, name of a thing, name of a place, Makkah, right? You don't add alif lam and you don't say al Makkah, because Makkah is already marifa, right? Zaid, for example, right? You don't add alif lam, you don't say az Zaid, right? Or Hammad, al Hammad. This is the general principle, but there are some exceptions, and these exceptions can be seen in Quran and Ahadith. So I wanted to mention just few of them. What are those exceptions? The exceptions are alif lam have been added to an already marifa, a thing which is already marifa. Okay, so some of those are Al Hasan, Al Hussein. Okay, so Hasan is already a name, it is marifa without even adding alif lam, but sometimes the Arab they add them. So who has the license to do this? The Arab, because it is their language, so they can do whatever they want to. We cannot question them, but we cannot add them. We cannot say Zaid as Zaid, right? We cannot say Safi as Safi or Hammad al Hammad. We cannot say that, but the Arab can do this, but we need to know whenever this happens. So Al Hasan, Al Hussein, Al Abbas, okay, and in the Quran we have, this is from the Quran, Ghulibatir Rum, right? So Suratul Rum. So Rum is already something marifa, right? It's the name of a place, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala added alif lam to it, okay? Ghulibatir Rum, Ar-Rum, Sham, Ash-Sham, right? So Hussein, Hassan, Hussein, Abbas, Sham, Rum, alif lam is added by the Arabs. So in case you come across this, so it is nothing to worry or panic about. These are the exceptions to the general rule, but the general rule is that we cannot add alif lam. Yeah. So, because in our language, someone who does not know our language cannot come and add something to it. We can do whatever we want to because it is our language. But if someone from outside comes and makes those changes, we will be like, how did you get this authority or the license to make these changes, right? So this is how it works. Any questions?
I have a question from previous example that you gave from Surah Al-Asr. You said Inna al-insana lafi khusr. And so the alif before the insan was not pronounced. So innal insan.
Yes.
So I just wanted to confirm the letter lam after the alif, is that the one that we consider to identify if we use the alif before it or not?
Let me write it down. I think I did not understand it. Let me write it down.
That's the lam al-ta'rif.
Lam al-ta'rif.
That's what we use to identify.
Innal insana lafi khusrin, right? So what is the alif over here, right? The alif over here is something that is, because the actual word is insanun, right? So in order to solve this problem, this confusion, what we can do is, every time you have alif lam, just try to remove alif lam and write down the word, the ism, right? So what is the ism? The ism is insanun, right? Now when we add alif lam, al, insanu, al insanu. Now this alif, in this case this hamza is part of the ism itself. So we would say al insanu.
I think he was asking which letter do you use to identify if it's a muller or sandar.
Yeah.
Can you say that again?
Which letter do you use to identify if it's a huruf shamsi or
Okay, so that letter would be the letter immediately after lam.
Immediately after lam.
Yeah.
Okay,
So in this case it would be hamza,
Hamza.
right? In this case it would be hamza. Al qamar, so the qaf, ash-shams, the sheen, right? Alhamd, the ha. So the letter immediately after lam is something that will be taken into consideration. Any other questions? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.